It's a quiet Monday morning at one of the world's busiest airports. Security guards are going about their routine checks when they discover something that would send shockwaves through Britain's criminal justice system. A vault that should contain millions of pounds is completely empty. What you're about to hear is the true story of the most audacious airport heist in British history. A crime so meticulously planned that it took investigators months to understand how 6 ordinary men managed to steal what would be worth over £150 million today. But this isn't just another robbery story. This is a masterclass in criminal psychology, meticulous planning, and ultimately, how human nature can destroy even the most perfect crime. It's a story that involves corrupt security guards, international money laundering, and a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Welcome to Crime Documentaries, where we uncover the truth behind history's most shocking crimes. I'm your host, and for the next 25 minutes, we're going deep inside the Security Express depot robbery, the heist that redefined what criminals thought was possible and changed airport security forever. By the end of this investigation, you'll understand exactly how these men pulled off what many consider the perfect crime and why their success ultimately led to their downfall. To understand this heist, we need to go back to 1983. Ronald Reagan was president, the Cold War was at its peak, and Britain was experiencing an unprecedented wave of armed robberies. But nothing, and I mean nothing, had prepared law enforcement for what was about to happen at Heathrow Airport. Heathrow wasn't just Britain's gateway to the world. It was also home to one of the most secure cash storage facilities in Europe. The Security Express depot processed an astronomical amount of money daily. We're talking about cash from dozens of airlines, international cargo companies, currency exchanges, and diplomatic pouches containing untraceable funds from around the world. The Security Express depot sat like a modern-day fortress within Heathrow's heavily guarded perimeter. The building itself was a monument to 1980s security technology, reinforced concrete walls 3 feet thick, designed to withstand explosions. Motion sensors covered every inch of the interior. Pressure plates detected unauthorized footsteps. Silent alarms were connected directly to both local police and private security firms. The vault at the heart of this fortress was a marvel of engineering. Time-locked mechanisms meant that even if someone had all the keys and codes, the vault could only be opened during specific hours. Armed guards rotated shifts every 6 hours, and no single guard ever worked alone. But here's what made it the perfect target, and this is crucial to understanding how the robbery succeeded. Despite all that technology, all those precautions, the facility had one fatal weakness that most people never considered: the human element. Every morning at exactly 6:47 a.m., the same routine played out like clockwork. Security guards would arrive for their shift change, following protocols that hadn't been updated in over 5 years. They trusted their system so completely that they never questioned who might be watching, learning, and planning. What they didn't know was that for 18 months, someone had been studying them, taking photographs from a distance, timing their movements, learning not just their security procedures but their personal habits, their weaknesses, their blind spots. The mastermind behind this operation wasn't some criminal genius from the movies. His name was John Knight, a 34-year-old former security guard who understood the system better than the people running it. John Knight seemed like the last person you'd suspect of planning Britain's biggest heist. Born in Bermondsey, South London in 1949, Knight grew up in a working-class family where crime wasn't glorified. It was something that happened to other people in other neighborhoods. After leaving school at 16, Knight found work in the security industry. This wasn't by choice. It was one of the few jobs available to young men without qualifications in 1960s London. But Knight discovered he had a natural talent for understanding security systems. He could spot vulnerabilities that others missed. He understood how technology worked, but more importantly, he understood how people worked. For 12 years, Knight worked his way up through various security companies. He guarded banks, government buildings, and eventually, airports. His record was spotless. His supervisors praised his attention to detail and his ability to think like a criminal, a skill they thought would make him better at preventing crime. They had no idea they were training their future enemy. In 1981, Knight was working for Securicor when he discovered what he believed was a serious security flaw in their cash transport procedures. Instead of being praised for his vigilance, Knight was dismissed. The official reason was insubordination, but Knight knew the truth. He had embarrassed his supervisors by pointing out their mistakes. This dismissal didn't just cost Knight his job. It shattered his faith in the system he had spent his adult life protecting. Sitting in his small flat in Rotherhithe, unemployed and bitter, Knight made a decision that would change criminal history. If the security industry wouldn't listen to his warnings about their vulnerabilities, he would prove those vulnerabilities existed in the most dramatic way possible. Knight's plan wasn't born from desperation. It was born from expertise. He spent months researching potential targets, using knowledge gained from 12 years inside the security industry. Banks were too well protected and had too little cash on hand. Jewelry stores were heavily insured and closely monitored. But airports were different. Heathrow processed more international currency than anywhere else in Britain. The Security Express depot wasn't just storing pounds. It was holding dollars, Deutschmarks, Swiss francs, and even gold bullion from international trade deals. More importantly, the facility operated under aviation security protocols, which were different from banking security. Knight knew these protocols intimately. But Knight couldn't do this alone, and he was smart enough to know it. He needed a crew, but not just any criminals. He needed people who could follow complex plans, stay calm under pressure, and most importantly, people who wouldn't betray him for reward money or reduced sentences. His first recruit was Mickey McAvoy, a 37-year-old career criminal from South London. McAvoy had spent 15 years perfecting the art of armed robbery, but he had one quality that made him perfect for Knight's plan: patience. While most criminals acted on impulse, McAvoy could wait months for the right opportunity. Next came Brian Robinson, known in criminal circles as the Colonel, for his military-style approach to planning. Robinson had served 2 tours in Northern Ireland and understood tactical operations better than most police officers. The other 3 members, Tony Black, Ronnie Knight, no relation to John, and Jimmy White, were chosen for their specific skills and their ability to keep quiet. Each man brought something essential to the operation. What happened next was unprecedented in British criminal history. Instead of rushing into the heist like typical robbers, Knight's crew spent 18 months conducting surveillance that would have impressed MI5. Knight rented a small office in a building with a clear view of the Security Express depot. Posing as a freelance aviation consultant, he spent hours each day photographing and timing the guards' movements. He learned that Guard A always arrived 7 minutes early for his shift. Guard B always stopped for coffee at the same cafe. Guard C had a habit of propping the security door open when moving equipment. Remember, this was 1983, long before CCTV systems were sophisticated, and long before digital records made everything traceable. Knight used this to his advantage, employing techniques that seem primitive by today's standards but were cutting edge for their time. He purchased professional photography equipment and telephoto lenses. He studied architectural plans of Heathrow that were publicly available through planning applications. He even got a job as a temporary security guard at a different airport to refresh his knowledge of current protocols. But Knight's masterstroke was infiltrating the Security Express workforce itself. Through careful manipulation and social engineering, he developed a relationship with Dennis, a Security Express guard who had gambling debts and a drinking problem. Dennis never knew he was being used. Knight would buy him drinks at local pubs, listen to his work complaints, and gradually extract crucial information about schedules, procedures, and most importantly, the vault's contents on specific days. Over those 18 months, Knight's surveillance revealed patterns that the security company had never noticed about their own operation. Every Tuesday, large cash shipments arrived from weekend currency exchanges across Europe. The vault was fullest on Tuesday mornings before the money was distributed to banks across London. The guard shift change at 6:47 a.m. was always chaotic, with outgoing guards eager to leave and incoming guards still mentally preparing for their day. The depot's sophisticated alarm system had a 90-second delay for authorized personnel entering with proper codes, a safety feature designed to prevent false alarms that would become the key to Knight's plan. Knight didn't just plan the heist, he rehearsed it. Using detailed floor plans and timing charts, the crew practiced their roles dozens of times. They rented a warehouse in East London and built a replica of the Security Express layout using cardboard and wooden barriers. Each man memorized not just his own role, but everyone else's role as well. They practiced until they could execute the plan in complete darkness, in case something went wrong with the lighting. Knight understood that the biggest challenge wouldn't be the security systems. It would be maintaining calm under extreme pressure. He trained his crew using techniques borrowed from military special forces, including controlled breathing exercises and visualization techniques. They studied police response times from various locations around Heathrow. They planned multiple escape routes and even rehearsed what to do if one of them was captured during the robbery. By November 1983, Knight's preparation was complete. He had detailed floor plans of the facility, complete guard schedules for a 6-week period, backup plans for 12 different scenarios, escape routes mapped and timed, equipment tested and ready, a crew trained to military precision. All that remained was choosing the perfect day. November 26, 1983. A cold Saturday morning that would go down in criminal history as the day 6 men proved that no security system was perfect. Knight had chosen this date for specific reasons. It was the Saturday after American Thanksgiving, meaning extra international currency shipments from the previous week's holiday travel. It was also the weekend before payday for thousands of airport workers, meaning the vault would contain maximum cash reserves. At exactly 6:15 a.m., as dawn broke gray and cold over West London, Knight's crew began their final approach to the Security Express depot. They traveled in 3 vehicles, a stolen Ford Transit van that would carry the money, a backup car for the getaway, and Knight's own legitimate vehicle, which he would use to gain entry. The temperature was just above freezing, cold enough that guards would want to spend minimal time outside, but not so cold that unusual clothing would attract attention. Knight, dressed in an authentic Security Express uniform complete with proper identification badges, all stolen from a laundry service that cleaned the company's uniforms, approached the main entrance. His confidence wasn't an act. After 18 months of preparation, he genuinely knew the security protocols better than some of the guards working there. When Guard Thompson opened the security door, Knight didn't burst in dramatically. Instead, he calmly explained that he was conducting a, quote, routine security audit ordered by regional headquarters. He showed proper paperwork, forged but convincing, and spoke with the authority of someone who had spent 12 years in the security industry. Guard Thompson, who had been working a double shift and was tired, made the fatal mistake of following protocol exactly as written. The security manual stated that authorized personnel with proper identification and paperwork should be admitted immediately. Thompson let Knight inside. Once inside the outer security area, Knight activated a small radio transmitter, the signal for his accomplices to approach. McAvoy and Robinson, dressed as maintenance workers, approached the loading dock. Black and White positioned themselves as lookouts at strategic points around the facility. The beauty of Knight's plan was its simplicity. Instead of fighting the security system, he was using it exactly as designed. Knight's psychological warfare began immediately. Rather than threatening the guards with violence, he calmly explained that they were professionals conducting a business transaction, not desperate criminals. He told them that if they cooperated completely, no one would be hurt and they could go home to their families that evening. This approach was revolutionary in 1983. Most armed robbers relied on fear and intimidation, which often led to panic and mistakes. Knight's calm, businesslike demeanor actually made the guards less likely to resist or try to trigger alarms. Within minutes, McAvoy and Robinson had joined Knight inside the facility. The three guards on duty, Thompson, Williams, and Davies, were secured but treated respectfully. Knight even made sure they were seated comfortably and offered them tea while the robbery proceeded. Here's where Knight's inside knowledge proved invaluable. The Security Express vault wasn't just locked, it was protected by a complex sequence of procedures that had to be followed exactly, or the entire system would lock down for 24 hours. Knight knew that Guard Williams had the primary access codes, but he also knew that Williams was required to call headquarters for authorization before opening the vault during non-standard hours. So Knight had prepared for this. Using information gathered from his surveillance, Knight knew the direct phone number for Security Express headquarters, the names of the duty supervisors, and even the verbal authorization codes used for emergency situations. When Williams made the required call, Knight stood beside him with a written script. To anyone listening on the other end of the phone, it sounded like a routine emergency opening authorized by proper channels. The massive vault door swung open at exactly 6:47 a.m., the precise time Knight had calculated would give them maximum working time before the next security check. What they found inside exceeded even Knight's carefully researched expectations. The vault contained not just the usual weekend cash deposits, but also several unexpected bonuses. £15 million in various currencies from holiday weekend travel. £8 million in untraceable cash from diplomatic and commercial sources. £3 million worth of gold bars being temporarily stored for international shipment. Safety deposit boxes containing jewelry and precious stones worth an additional £2 million. For the next 37 minutes, Knight's crew worked with mechanical precision. They had practiced this exact sequence dozens of times, and their efficiency showed. Rather than grabbing money randomly, they prioritized based on Knight's pre-planned system. First, high-denomination notes in foreign currencies, hardest to trace. Second, gold and precious metals, compact, high value. Third, British currency, easier to trace but still valuable. Fourth, anything else of value that could fit in their vehicles. The crew worked in complete silence, communicating only through hand signals. Knight maintained watch on both the guards and the time, while McAvoy and Robinson loaded money with the efficiency of professional movers. At exactly 7:25 a.m., Knight made the decision to leave. They had loaded £26 million in cash, £6 million in gold, and approximately £2 million in other valuables. More importantly, they were still within their calculated safety window. Before leaving, Knight did something that would later fascinate criminal psychologists. He apologized to the guards for the inconvenience and assured them that their cooperation had prevented any violence. He even left them with bottled water and told them that someone would find them within the hour. The three vehicles departed Heathrow Airport at 7-minute intervals, taking pre-planned routes that avoided all known traffic cameras and police checkpoints. Knight's military-style planning extended to the getaway. Each driver had multiple route options depending on traffic conditions and police presence. For 37 minutes and 30 seconds, 6 men had executed what many experts still consider the most professionally planned heist in British history. For the first 48 hours after the robbery, it seemed like Knight had indeed planned the perfect crime. The robbers had left no fingerprints, no DNA evidence. DNA analysis wasn't yet available to police in 1983, and no witnesses who could provide detailed descriptions. Detective Chief Inspector Tony Lundy was assigned to lead what would become one of the largest criminal investigations in British history. Lundy was no ordinary policeman. He had spent 15 years tracking organized crime networks and understood that heists of this magnitude were never isolated incidents. Lundy's first insight was crucial. This robbery was too sophisticated for typical criminals. The level of inside knowledge, the precision of timing, and the professional execution suggested someone with extensive security industry experience. While other investigators focused on physical evidence at the crime scene, Lundy concentrated on behavioral analysis. He understood that having that much money, more than any of the robbers had ever imagined, would inevitably change their behavior patterns. Lundy's team began monitoring known criminals with the skills and connections necessary to plan such an operation. They weren't looking for traditional clues. They were looking for changes in lifestyle, spending patterns, and social behavior. Within weeks, the behavioral analysis began paying dividends. Mickey McAvoy, who had been specifically chosen for his calm demeanor and patience, became the weak link in Knight's perfect plan. McAvoy couldn't resist the temptation of his newfound wealth. New cars appeared in his driveway, expensive German luxury vehicles that cost more than his legitimate annual income. He began wearing expensive jewelry and taking lavish holidays to exotic locations. More damaging, McAvoy started talking, not directly about the robbery, but about his sudden change in fortunes. He told friends he had come into some money through an inheritance. He started buying drinks for entire pubs and tipping restaurant staff with 50-pound notes. By March 1984, Lundy's surveillance teams were monitoring all 6 members of Knight's crew. The investigation revealed a network of relationships and behaviors that pointed directly to the Heathrow robbery. Bank records showed massive cash deposits being made across London, always just under the £10,000 limit that would trigger automatic reporting requirements. Property purchases were being made with cash payments that far exceeded the buyers' known incomes. But the most fascinating aspect of the investigation was watching how the psychological pressure affected each member of the crew differently. Knight, the mastermind, became increasingly paranoid. He started avoiding his usual haunts and became suspicious of old friends. His meticulous nature, which had made the robbery possible, now worked against him as he obsessively checked for signs of police surveillance. Robinson, the colonel, maintained better discipline but made one crucial mistake. He purchased a farm in rural Kent with cash, telling neighbors he was a retired businessman. The property purchase was large enough to attract attention from tax investigators. By May 1984, Lundy had built a comprehensive case against Knight's crew. The investigation included surveillance footage from multiple locations showing the suspects making suspicious purchases, bank records demonstrating impossible wealth accumulation, witness testimony from merchants who remembered large cash transactions, phone records linking the crew members to each other during the planning phases. On May 15, 1984, coordinated raids across London resulted in the arrests of all 6 men involved in the heist. The operation was planned with the same attention to detail that Knight had used for the robbery itself. Police recovered approximately £6 million in cash and goods, but this represented less than 20% of the total stolen amount. The majority of the money had either been spent or hidden so effectively that it was never recovered. The trial of Knight's crew began in September 1984 at the Old Bailey, and it immediately became one of the most closely watched criminal proceedings in British history. The prosecution had to prove not just that these men had committed the robbery, but exactly how they had managed to defeat such sophisticated security systems. During the trial, the full scope of Knight's planning became public for the first time. Prosecutors presented evidence of the 18-month surveillance operation, including hundreds of photographs and detailed timing charts that Knight had prepared. The jury was shown the replica warehouse where the crew had practiced their roles, complete with cardboard mock-ups of the Security Express layout. Expert witnesses testified that the level of preparation was unlike anything they had seen in previous robbery cases. John Knight received 22 years in prison, one of the longest sentences ever given for robbery in Britain at that time. The judge specifically noted that Knight's abuse of his security industry knowledge represented a betrayal of public trust that demanded severe punishment. Mickey McAvoy received 25 years, with the judge commenting that his reckless spending had not only led to his own capture, but had endangered his accomplices as well. Brian Robinson got 20 years, while the other 3 crew members received sentences ranging from 15 to 18 years. But the trial left one massive question unanswered. Where was the rest of the money? Despite extensive investigations, police recovered less than £7 million of the estimated £32 million stolen. Conservative estimates suggest that over £25 million remains unaccounted for to this day. Several theories emerged about what happened to the missing money. Theory 1. Knight, anticipating possible capture, had arranged for the bulk of the money to be laundered through international channels before the robbery even took place. Some investigators believe the money was converted to diamonds and other untraceable assets. Theory 2. The crew had buried or hidden large portions of the money in locations that died with them or were never revealed. Several of the robbers died in prison, taking their secrets with them. Theory 3. The missing money funded other major crimes throughout the 1980s. Some investigators believe Knight's heist bankrolled other criminal organizations, creating a ripple effect that influenced British crime for decades. The Heathrow robbery fundamentally changed security protocols not just in Britain, but worldwide. The heist proved that even the most sophisticated technological security could be defeated by inside knowledge and meticulous planning. Airports globally redesigned their cash handling procedures. The concept of security audits was completely overhauled, with new protocols requiring multiple levels of authorization. The incident led directly to the development of modern biometric security systems and real-time monitoring networks. Knight served 15 years of his sentence before being released in 1999. He maintained his silence about the missing money until his death in 2007, taking whatever secrets he had to his grave. McAvoy served 18 years and was released in 2002. He consistently claimed that all the money had been spent or lost, though investigators never believed this claim. Several crew members died in prison, and those who were eventually released found themselves under lifetime surveillance by both police and organized crime figures interested in the missing millions. The Heathrow robbery remains one of the most perfectly executed crimes in history, and, simultaneously, one of the most spectacular failures in criminal psychology. Knight's meticulous planning got them into the vault and out with £32 million, but basic human nature, greed, ego, and the inability to live quietly with enormous wealth led them straight to prison cells. What fascinates criminologists today isn't just how Knight pulled off the heist, but what it reveals about the nature of perfect crimes. Is it actually possible to commit a crime so perfectly that you're never caught? Or does the very act of committing such a crime change you in ways that make capture inevitable? And then there's the question that still keeps investigators awake at night. Where is that missing £25 million? In today's money, we're talking about over £80 million that simply vanished. Some of it might still be buried somewhere in the English countryside. Some of it might have funded other crimes we've never connected to the original heist. What do you think happened to the missing money? Do you believe Knight and his crew spent it all? Or is there a treasure trove of 1980s cash still waiting to be discovered? More importantly, what fascinates you most about this case? The precision of the planning, the psychology that led to their downfall, or the mystery that remains unsolved? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by the psychology behind perfect crimes, you need to subscribe to Crime Documentaries right now. We dive deep into the criminal mind every week, exploring cases that will challenge everything you think you know about crime and punishment.